Okay, good morning, guys. It is Tuesday, the 18th of October. As always, I'm your host, Dane from us. This is Pounds for Breakfast, and we are going to be trading the London Market Open live together. So, guys, just welcome to everybody that is in the house. I can see Fabian, Aslam, Lana, Taylor, Richard van der Skyf, Gilbert, Ruan, Peter, Van Beek, Frank, Mobile, Kenzie, Licinia, Medistation, Kanya, Timelo, John, Manila, Joseph, Lumna. Guys, welcome. We're about to have an amazing session today as we kick off the week. There's a ton of things we need to get into and a ton of data. We're going to be breaking down and essentially taking part within the markets. Now remember, if you have a live account, we can have a special dollars for lunch premium edition session this afternoon. But in addition to that, we are also going to be trading some of the Netflix data this evening. So we're going to be having a trade-a-thon. It could be around about 3 to 4 hours long, and I will announce the starting times in the dollars for lunch session. But in essence, we're going to get those Netflix earnings, we're going to get the report, and then we're going to listen in on the investors call. But it is going to be quite late, I must warn you. We're going to get that earnings report at about 10, and that investors call is going to happen around midnight tonight. So for those of you who are going to be doing some evening trading and you guys are up and about, and we're going to be having that session together, 3 to 4 hours. We're going to trade the US market close, look for opportunities, and I'm going to be showing you how to spot some trends in terms of market close. For those of you who are super busy in the day and you like to take trades in the evening and hold them, I'm going to be showing you some really amazing opportunities that repeat themselves every single night. You want to be a part of that. That's just free pips. Place a trade, set your stop, wake up, see if it hits your TP or stop loss. But some very, very interesting moves that we are going to be able to take advantage of. And as well, Netflix. We want to have a look at how that moves markets and how we can capitalize on those trades. So we're going to be having an amazing session together today. As always, listen, if you guys have not seen yesterday's video of our summary of the previous week, please go ahead and check it out. I sent it into the groups. Go and have a look. If you were part of our sessions in the last week, comment in that video, let me know. It's a very powerful video. You know, when you look at our shows one by one, you think, wow, okay, this is great, this is amazing. But when you combine all of these things together, guys, the answer is quite simply, this does not happen anywhere else in the world right now, right? And it's an amazing time to be a Globex 360 client as well as trader. I'm going to quickly just pop the brightness there. There we go. All right, so we're going to have an amazing session together. So as always, we want to jump in and we're going to get started with, you know, what is happening in the world from a news perspective, and then we're going to jump into the rest of the markets and what we can see happening in terms of the London Market Open. So that's going to be happening in about 10 minutes. So we have a few minutes just to cover what the world is busy speaking about and where we are in the bigger scale of things. Okay, brilliant. So let's jump in and let's have a look. I can see the comments. Everybody's pumped, wanting to get going, and we're going to be having some big sessions this week. Right now, quick one in terms of where the market's at. We obviously saw the news coming in terms of, you know, the stock market rallies that were essentially being discussed yesterday, and some of the biggest earnings that are going to end up coming out for this week. But in essence, what our main focus is going to be on is having a look at the dollar, but we are going to start to shift over into the pound, right? We saw some earnings reports, and these basically were coming from the big banks, right? And as I discussed, the big banks' earning reports are slightly more complicated, but ultimately some of the big banks have just beat expectation, right? So in essence, Bank of America, BAC, beat expectations, and in essence, their share value rose by more than 6%. So that is obviously attributing to obviously US 30 as well as sometimes NASDAQ, but we are going to look at that. Now, markets are in a position that we are very, very keen on having a look at some long-term trades, right? If you've been waiting to get in some long-term trades, as I've discussed yesterday, we are going to be getting into some long-term trades, right? Specifically in the dollars for lunch, we're going to start to get some day trades and swing trades going, because we look at the states of the markets. I believe the markets fully understand now where the dollar is. The dollar needs to get a bit weaker. This is going to give us massive opportunities to get long on gold, to get long on other commodities like Brent and crude, as well as get long on the indices, right? US 30, NASDAQ, German 30. So there's going to be some massive opportunities for us to take advantage of. I can see here Netflix tension will be on its plans to launch an ad-supported tier next month. Some believe it could not only be revenue growth, but also improved possibility. 100%. That's exactly what we discussed yesterday. So even though Netflix's earnings reports could come out slightly under expectation, or the EPS, earnings per share, could come out slightly less than what is expected, even though they have higher revenue, we have to obviously look at that earnings call. So that's what we're going to be doing tonight. We're going to be listening in, and you're going to be able to sit in and listen as if you were an investor or a shareholder or part of the board of Netflix to understand their future plans for the next quarter. And that could be massive. We could see Netflix do some crazy things this evening. That is going to be a special event, and I will announce when the Netflix trade-a-thon is going to happen. But we are going to start pretty late, potentially around about 9, 9:30 this evening, but I will confirm those times with every single one of you. Now, obviously, we still have some stocks to speak about, but the rest of the world is not really too focused on anything else, and we're not seeing much discussion on what the Federal Reserve is going to be doing in the next 2 weeks, right? This is a hot topic, and the world's keeping quiet, right? There's opinions that the Fed is too late to the game, and again, that just goes to point out to the fact that the Fed hasn't done enough in order to curb inflation. So the Fed is going to be put under huge pressure in the next 2 weeks. So we are going to again then be focusing on price action as well as the stock side of things. Now, quickly as we transition into some of the fundamentals, because we don't have a ton of news items that are really important for today, but as we look at some of those fundamentals, the item that we are going to be trading as the US New York Stock Exchange opens, we're going to be looking at that industrial production for month-on-month, year-on-year for September, right? It's a medium impact fundamental data event, but I do believe it can drive markets. And we don't have a year-on-year forecast at this moment in time. I will refresh. We might get that a little bit later. But the industrial production we do have. And again, we're primarily looking at, we're not looking at last year to date. We're primarily focusing on what are the improvements from last month to where we are at this kind of point in time. Now, obviously, remember, this is September's data, so this definitely has an ability to move the markets. Now, again, keeping in line with what is happening today, and it's less of a fundamental, but still fairly important, there was obviously a big discussion yesterday. Now, for those of you who've ever watched, statements in, the UK Treasury House, right, where the politicians sit down, debate, it's really something straight out of an old school movie, right, where they sit and they haggle and I say he, this, then the next thing, right? So I've linked that in today's video down below, and this is essentially that, the UK has literally done a full U-turn on their original policy that came in place last week, right? They came in and said they're going to do these sort of cuts, and the public was saying, well, great, listen, you're going to reduce spending and you're going to cut interest, but where's the money going to come? Right? Sorry, they're going to increase spending. So they're going to pump money into the economy, but reduce taxes. And essentially, taxes is how a country raises most of its capital in order to spend. So the discussion yesterday, it is a 4-hour-long video, but for those of you who have never seen what it looks like in a UK parliament when they sit down, they get together, it's quite entertaining, right? And you can see how they have these statements, very different from what we see in the US, very different from what we see in every other country, but we are going to be paying a little bit more attention to this. Now, the pound has reacted positively, and this could be temporary, so we are going to be keeping a little bit more of a keen focus on the pound this week as we look at how the situation evolves for the pound. So in terms of this afternoon, and obviously there is a full statement over what his speech was word by word, and I will also be sending this, and I'll be linking this for those of you who don't want to watch the whole thing, but you just want to obviously listen to some of the main remarks. You can go ahead and go through that, and I will share that as well within the groups, so you can go ahead and break that one down. But really, most importantly, and as I said yesterday, the majority of our focus this week is going to be sitting around price action, right? So we're going to have a bunch of events, a bunch of data. Yes, we're going to trade Netflix. Yes, we're aware of Russia, Ukraine, but majority of our focus is currently going to be sitting within the sights and realms of price action. So as we get started this morning, we're going to see there are some massive opportunities. So let's jump right in. We're going to start off with some FX analysis before we get into the UK market open, and we look at what opportunities lie ahead for us. So as we open up here, we're going to see, and we're going to open up this morning, as always, we're going to start on the dollar index. And as I explained yesterday, we had that market structure that was essentially just looming and ultimately broke towards the downside. Now, again, this break towards the downside hasn't fully correlated across the board on all other instruments. So primarily, we're not seeing that big boost in gold, right? So meaning this could be a little bit of a lagging indicator, a little bit of a lagging momentum towards downside on the dollar. And we're obviously going to push quite high and look for opportunities to start buying into some commodities. Just having a look in terms of the comments here, I can see Limpopo is in the house, guys. Let me know where in the world you are joining us from, where in the country, city, world, whatever it may end up being. Drop in the comments and let us know where you are joining us from. That is super important and important for us to hear and or see. And in addition to that, go and smash that like button so that you never miss a new upload. Obviously, hitting subscribe and the notification bell will literally let you know when we are live, so you don't miss a new upload. I can see Cape Town in the house, Limpopo in the house, a ton of people from Limpopo in the house. I can see Germany's in the house, Kenya's in the house. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are an international family, right? We have clients from all over the world. That is what it is all about. Mount Frere, I'm not sure what that is. We got Johannesburg, we got Botswana, we got Witbank, we got Ntata, we got Joseph watching from Midrand, we got Shelly Beach, Cape Town, Namibia, Centurion. Beautiful. Okay, so let's get straight into it. We only have a few seconds left. We've got about 50 seconds left until the London Open. So we're going to quickly get into and have a look at what is USD ZAR doing this morning, because I believe this is going to be of quite significant importance, right? So as we discussed yesterday, USD ZAR sitting at that key level, that 78.6. Now, I don't want to miss this. And for this reason, even though we have that dollar weakness, right? Again, on the local front, there was also discussions about potential load shedding increasing. We essentially have been moved back to, I believe it's stage 4 load shedding due to some power failures in infrastructure. And again, I don't want to miss out on an opportunity to be in a position to buy USD ZAR. As I explained, we will see the pullback down to, I was looking at that 18 Rand to the dollar value proposition. Now, because we're sitting so close to diagonal resistance, right? We have a nice early entry, meaning if we're wrong, we're going to be wrong almost immediately. So I'm looking for a stop loss on that 17 Rand 90 mark. And I'm going to be putting in 2 or 3 trades at this level to make sure that I can cover myself and hold this as a long-term position as this market ends up moving and rallying towards the top side. Right. Let's quickly have a look that the stream is intact and everything is good. We look good on the stream. We look good on that side. Let's go. So I've got a little bit of a delay on my terminal. So let's see what she says. It just says, please wait. Let's have a look. We reopen that order. Oh, it was a quick disconnect and reconnect. We're fairly used to that by now. There we go. So I'm going to put in 2 orders. Potentially, I'm going to place a third as well. And in essence, what I want to do here is I just want to manage risk accordingly. So I'm layering my orders, right? And what I will do here, when layering orders, I'm essentially just looking at, how do I take the most of my profit, right, as early on, and then reduce my risk as that market goes by obviously taking the biggest trades out first and then allowing those smaller trades to run towards the top side. So this is a minute time frame on USD ZAR. And in essence, I'm just looking at managing my risk and making sure that my stop losses are below resistance. And even though this is a very, very tight resistance level, I just want to make sure we don't end up missing that as from a trade perspective. So in this zone, I'm happy. I just want to point out the fact that we do have, from a market structure perspective, we're quite a big support there. So I am currently on support. I'd like to be below it. So for this reason, I will potentially adjust to the 1785 mark. Now, again, if USD ZAR breaks 1785, we are then in a full-on bear market, and we've broken this bull structure that we've currently seen busy evolving and busy happening. Now, quickly having a look at US City yesterday afternoon, right? So we will look at trading this one live in a second. I just want to break its data down really quickly before we get into live trading. But this is where we were yesterday afternoon as US 30 punched through that resistance zone. And again, yesterday afternoon, I was saying, we want to look for a potential retest of this 88.2. We ended up getting the pullback, and it ended up coinciding with some sort of market structure here. More specifically, it coincided with the 500 period moving average on a 1 minute time frame. Now, yesterday afternoon, fairly late, it was around about 9 o'clock in the evening, almost 10 o'clock in the evening, we started to get that push off market structure. So it wasn't yet ready for me to buy, and I was literally in bed at that time. So I didn't catch this buy, but if anybody else has got it, then a massive well done. I know there's a couple of clients that inboxed me and said they've caught it. I think specifically Aslam caught it at the 29,400 mark or the 30,400 mark. I'm not 100% sure. So if you caught that buy, massive well done. But again, as you can see, we've pushed into the next fib territory, and we are currently testing resistance at this point in time. Now, the current market, right, we are seeing a sell-off this morning. And what I'm looking for on the sell-off is I'm essentially looking at, are we going to get any sort of reversal on this structure? And if no reversals happen, where are we pushing down to from a support perspective? We can see that we have a market structure. I'm going to go to a 5 minute just to be able to point this out. But we can see we've got a diagonal support here on a 5 minute, but also on a 1 minute, that 500 period SMA is just below us. So what I'm looking out for here this morning is, do we get a break in this structure? And if we do, let's draw it like that, right? Do we get a break in that structure? And if we do, that might be something I'll end up buying off of, because again, we can see we also had a decent amount of support. The only thing just to acknowledge here from the support perspective is we're making higher highs, but we're also making lower lows. So it is also very likely that we could start to create a symmetrical triangle as markets kind of build up to the New York Stock Exchange open and then make a decision in terms of the way forward. So that is the only thing that I want to point out from a risk perspective, is that, you know, when we are in a bit of a range, as we can see here, I generally don't like to trade ranges, and you guys know this quite well. So again, provided we break out, I may look for a buy in this range and potentially start taking some profit at the 30,674 mark. But again, should we break towards the sell side, I want to look for support and a potential buy opportunity on the diagonal in terms of this diagonal resistance, now support, right? So those are going to be the two things I want to point out. I'm going to be putting alerts here so that while we are doing other analysis and while we're looking for other opportunities, we don't miss out on an opportunity here. Just while we're doing that, I also just want to close down the rest of my charts, and I just want to open up US 30, German 30, as well as NASDAQ. I just want to look at what they're doing side by side, just to make sure. My dollar index for some reason thinks it's US 30. Not 100% sure why. But there we go. Okay, so everything's on a 1 minute time frame. So we're seeing that sell across the board, which is correct. German 30 is giving us the first indication there may be some strength towards the top side. We're getting, these are all 1 minute time frames. Far left, just behind my head, this is currently US 30. And then we have NASDAQ dead center. And then we have German 30 on the right hand side. I am having server disconnect issues on my MT4, where markets just end up pausing. But obviously, as we can see on the live broadcast, I'm streaming, 10,000 bits a second, and you guys are seeing me perfectly fine. So if you're having the same issue, please do let me know, just so we can troubleshoot this. If you are watching and you are looking at your MT4, I tend not to see the same issue on mobile, but the more numbers we have, obviously the better it is. We can obviously look at what the problem is there. So we are getting that push through to the downside, and we very well are going to see markets continue that sell momentum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in for a sell there on US 30, and we're essentially going to sell down to support. That's currently what the move looks like it wants to be. And so I'm going to put in a couple trades there, and I'm going to add in another sell, and I'm just going to make this full screen really quickly just so you guys can see. Okay, so now that we have a little bit of structure, we got a breakout. I'm trying to build in some rules in terms of retracements. There we can see a nice healthy push there. I'm going to go for a 3,000 points trailing on all of my orders. Now remember, you can click on the actual order. If they're too close together, you can obviously edit that, but ultimately you want to see something like this. You can literally go to those orders, right click on them, right wherever the order is, and you can go trailing stop and then custom, and then you can obviously insert that order. Now once you have a trailing stop in place, it will go green, right? So it will go yellow. So that's how you know whether you've activated trailings on your trades or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce my risk. No, I think I'm just going to leave it, allow it to do its thing. So I'm going to keep my risk where it is. I've got 3,000 point trailings. So should she move 300 pips into profit, it will then activate those trailing stops. Even though it's a very small push, we are obviously need to be cognizant of the fact that there is support in that zone right there. So I believe a push to, I would say 30,480 is likely for this morning, especially over the next couple minutes, over the next 20-30 trading minutes. All trades are currently already in profit, but I'm not going to be too stingy with my take profits or with my stop losses. So I'm going to allow them just to move and breathe a little bit. Even if we get a little bit of a pullback, that's fine. What I'm looking at from a structural perspective here is I'm looking at placing, right, if that is our next resistance level and it will coincide with this diagonal market structure here, I'm just looking at placing my stop losses above that, right? So as you can see, my stop losses now are just in that zone there. So meaning if markets break that, then we are likely going to have the next little bull market move there. So what I'll do here is I'll maybe reduce some of my risk because we're not getting that straight push. I'll maybe make one of my trailings 1,500. And then I'll make one of my trailings potentially, let's do this one here. So I have one trailing at 1,500, one at 1,000, and one at the full 3,000 mark. That's what we're going to go ahead and do for that session there. So let's leave those. I'm pretty happy to leave them to do what it is that they want to do. Let's quickly give USD ZAR a look, because I do believe we might already be in profit there, and we are already in profit on USD ZAR. It's a nice little push up. Nothing to write home about, right? Nothing to, like, don't quit your day job, right, of USD ZAR, because we've got a couple structures at play here. And this is again on a 1 minute time frame. USD ZAR is not all too neat on a 1 minute, but where I get a little bit of positivity, or where I see this potentially going, and we need to just be cognizant of, is I just want to make sure, okay, so we've pretty much climbed out of that market structure, which is good, which is great. But again, we do want to see USD ZAR make a bit of a healthier push. I'd say, you know, at 18 Rand 8 cents, that's potentially a zone we can start to take some profits, or reduce risk, either or, completely up to you. US 30, let's see, is still sitting in that zone. Let's give it a quick look. Yeah, so US 30 sitting in that zone, and again, we could get a pullback. That's perfectly fine. Another way we can manage risk when it comes to when you see these big impulses. So I'm just going to adjust risk above resistance, just so I can just help show you guys this quick method. So when we have a major push down, what I also tend to do is I tend to do Fibonacci. And if it goes past the 88.2, I want to be out of that trade and I want to start to go long, right? So maybe at this case, I'll put stop losses at 100%. There we go. So it means at the 88.2, if we get taken out of this small trade here, right, it means that this market is reversing and it is potentially going to end up going quite long. So that's how I know that if I'm taken out, I'm not taken out because my stop loss is wrong. I'm being taken out because markets are reversing and the trade direction is incorrect. Now remember, as I've told you guys and said before, trading is not about being right or wrong. Trading is about risk. So when you lose small. When you lose 100, 200, 500 pips. When it comes to indices, when you win big, win 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 pips. That's what it's all about. You can win half your trades, lose half your trades, and still be in a massive net positive. Now I can see the stream is quite healthy, but unfortunately, MetaTrader seems to disconnect with me. Are you guys, is anybody else having any disconnects on MetaTrader? Please do let me know. Mine seems to be super inconsistent. Let me know if you guys also have the same thing. I'm saying, okay, so Tyler's saying he's disconnecting as well. Precious saying he's saying disconnect all week. Lana's saying all good. And I'm only speaking about MT4 desktop, not mobile. So Tyson's saying his MT4 is good. Someone's saying theirs is good. Paresh is saying disconnect for about a week. I'm the same on my side. Okay, so the team is looking into it. We have logged a ticket, and we obviously yeah. So if someone's on mobile, then so again, on mobile, I haven't seen the same issues. I'm only talking about MT4 desktop, right? So if you are on mobile, I haven't seen the same issues. MT4 desktop is where I'm seeing some of those issues. Okay, cool stuff. So again, ZAR is running into profit. That's great. But obviously we want to see what's going to happen now when it comes to US30. Do we get that push down? Are we going to get that range? Are we stuck in the range? Are we going to get that next impulse towards the downside? I'm pretty happy to hold that and see what ends up materializing. I'm going to set a little alert here just in case, and I'll set a little alert here just in case. But it definitely seems there's some market movement. Markets really look like they want to move to the downside. Topside, sorry. Downside, sorry. Markets really look like they want to move to the downside. We are on a sell there at the end of the day. Okay, let's have a look at what Brent is currently doing. Again, as we spoke about yesterday, Brent hasn't moved a ton in relation to where we were yesterday. This is currently a 4-hour time frame. Let's move into an hourly because where we were yesterday and where we are today is pretty much a similar position. So someone without a name, I can't see a name there. I don't know if it's just me, just space without a user profile saying where must we place our TP on US30. So TP on US30 again is going to run in line with what I spoke about in terms of the next support. So again, we're looking for support on US30. The first take profit, I would start taking money out of this market or start closing up trades. As I said, is at 30,485. So 30485. 30485 is where I'm looking at 30485. So Mackenzie's saying my trailing stop took me out at 5% of my account. Well done, Mackenzie. Listen, guys, 5% of your account in a day is massive stuff. I know we did a video and we, explained and showed that, we smashed our 20,000 pips last week. But the reality is, if you can do just a percent a day on your account, right, you can go to the moon. You can go to levels that investment banks can never offer you, hedge funds cannot offer you in your life. Michelle was asking, indices gapped up 100 pips. 100 pips for indices is nothing, right? I think you might be referring to this gap here. Let's have a look. Okay, I think you might be referring to this gap. Are you referring to the gap of the start of this morning? Because if you are, that gap on my side is much more than 100 pips. Let's quickly have a look at it. I'm lost. I don't know where that gap is. Oh, there we go. I really don't like MetaTrader, like in general. So the gap up was about 668 pips, right? Someone's asking, can we close the gap? Again, the only way that gap gets closed is if we break this structure, right? So I've explained this a little bit earlier. If we break this support, right, where we want to take profits, then yes, we could start to do a much bigger retracement, even further than that gap, right? We could come back to some sort of known level somewhere in this zone, but it potentially we could close the gap. So yeah, that's currently where we're sitting. But again, anything could happen on US30 now. We could break topside. We could start to look for some buys. But again, looking at the levels we currently have from a support perspective, Yeah. Sorry, just give me a second, guys. I just want to quickly go and have a look at something. Okay, good stuff. Okay, yeah. So US30 is looking like we're stuck in a range this morning. I don't think we're going to get the performance out of it that we want to see. Let's have a look at that. So stuck in that range. We aren't close to our entries or orders there as of yet. And yeah, my system's froze once again. Super frustrating. Really upsets me and irritates me. But anyway, whatever. Okay, I'm sure the team will fix it. Okay, and there we got to push up. So I think, guys, let me get my system fixed because it's almost impossible to trade when you're just flying blind for 30 seconds. I definitely think it's my system because I can see a lot of people are saying their systems are fine. I saw about 5 or 6 other users. So they're having also that same issue. So I'm just going to hold it. I'm just going to hold US30, allow it to do what it wants to do. And hopefully, if we get taken on US30, we've got enough profits on ZAR to essentially close that gap and essentially be 0 for 0. And we will obviously have a look at that. And we will obviously see where we are on that. So again, just obviously touching on Brent, we are pretty much in the same position we were yesterday. Brent, you can see, is creating that good market support. And in essence, what I'm looking for in Brent is, are we going to break that structure? Again, I said yesterday, the value proposition for me sits at $98 per barrel, right? So when I'm saying that I'm looking at $98 per barrel, I'm not saying it's going to go there right now, but where Brent is currently sitting, it has to make a decision, right? It's sitting just under massive support, which is currently acting now as resistance. We also have that diagonal right there. So where we are sitting is extremely important for the future and the price of Brent. I do believe we're moving into profits now on US30. Finally, it's doing what it needs to be doing. So we're getting a little bit of a push down there. Secure some of your profits. Let those trailing stops engage. My trailings have just started to move my trades into profit. And I'm just going to move manually some of these trailings into profit. So if we get a pullback, I don't have to hold any sort of negative. So you should all be in profit around about the region of about 250 260 pips in profit right now. So a little bit of a temporary range, but ultimately resulting in the markets giving us that initial push that we're looking for. So nice stronger pushes there. We should be around about 300 pips or so right now. ZAR should also follow trend. Let's have a look at what ZAR is up to. Let's quickly have a look. Okay, so ZAR is in nice profits already. ZAR has moved for us from 18 Rand 2 cents and pretty much flat. We're now currently sitting 18 Rand 3 cents and 40 pips, right? So it's moved 1 cent and 40 pips, which depending on the order, the size that you've got, again, that could result anywhere from, $100 to $500, depending where you are in that trade and from that perspective. So US30, let's see, done a pullback. Okay, so my US30s are closed everything in profit right there. We've got that pullback, and that's the importance of a trailing stop, or why I love using trailing stops, specifically while analyzing. Now, if we have a look on a 5-minute, we're starting to see that rejection of market structure. So this is where I would like to start to look for some buy momentum. So what I'm doing here is, because I'm seeing that rejection, I'm looking for and going to be looking at just placing a buy, and I'm going to be doing this as a long-term trade, right? Just for the reason being, some of the times we make a wick down to a candle, right? We make a push down to a candle, and then we see markets then take off from that level. So I would like to be holding indices long term, because again, we can see where the markets are at, right? We can see that indices are in these massive long-term potential market changing moves. So obviously I want to be with trend, right? I'm not trying to trade against Wall Street. I'm not trying to trade against the big banks. I'm not trying to trade against any of them, but obviously being cognizant of the fact that, you know, we have these push downs, but trend is pushing higher. Let's have a quick look what we are seeing from an overbought to oversold condition. Right, the only thing that would worry me about a long-term buy here is the fact that from an RSI perspective, we have been overbought for a little bit of a period. This is currently looking at 30 minutes. The RSI is broken for the first time over the last hour, right, on a 30-minute time frame. So that's the only thing that would be going against me, going super bullish, you know, going absolutely ham. But we can start to see we're getting that little bit of a push there. I would like to see us clear this level. That's ideal. Should we break this, I'll be a little bit more bullish, right? Because for two reasons. First thing being, and again, we're still watching US 30. First thing being is we're clearing that diagonal. Second thing is we're clearing that. So until we clear that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reduce my risk a little bit. And I think you can guess what's happening. Right, my system's just saying, not today, Sonny. Let's see. Okay, so we're breaking that level, which is great. That allows me now to go ahead and reduce some of my risk for that buy. Okay, because we are getting that reversal on trend. We're getting the reversal basically of that London market push. London market push happened there, and we're getting a little bit of reversal back into structure. So what I'm looking for here is I'm going to essentially run all of my US 30 trades. I think I'm going to run them on around about at 3,000 points. I want to make the smallest one 3,000 points, and then I'm going to start making them bigger from there. So I'm going to do 3,000 points, 4,000 points, and then a potentially a 5,000 points trailing for a buy. Okay, so once your trading is engaged, and obviously you'll see that marker move there. Let's have a look here. Did they activate? Yeah. Okay, so they're all in place and they're all happy there. But obviously I've lumped a bunch of trades in that zone. Sometimes when you lump a bunch of trades in the zone, you can't see your stop loss location. So you sometimes have to click on it. I'm going to currently position myself at 30,531, 30,531. Just from a stop loss perspective. Anyway, I don't have a stop loss because I just put them all 30,500 and let's just make it 30,500 and flat. Just so I can see where it is. There we go. So at least at this point now, the next level we need to break and obviously crack in order to I would say really be bullish on this, right? Is we want to, this level we're currently testing right now. Okay, so from entry, we're only sitting at about 3,000 points from entry. So again, once markets start to move past that point, I do believe one of my stop losses is already in profit on that with those trailing. So we obviously want to get through that zone. Then we obviously want to see if we can see these markets rally towards the top side. Again, so just recovering and obviously speaking about Brent really quickly. Brent's sitting at a key support. Right, only Limpopian is sitting on US 30. I'm going to hold US 30, right? So I'd like to hold US 30 into New York Stock Exchange open. That's ideally what I want to do. That's ideally the goal. But remember, this afternoon session is going to be a special dollars for lunch session. We are going to be dealing with what is the potential likelihood from a Tesla share perspective. What data could we get? And I'll be announcing the times in the New York Stock Exchange session for our Tesla Netflix trade-a-thon. That's where we want to go. So US 30 is pushing nicely into profit. Just a last quick look there in terms of that little breakout towards the top side. So I'm going to hold that. My stop loss is already in profit with the exception of one trade. I'm going to manually just move that into profit there. And that'll allow me to carry on with my day and analysis without any stress of what the markets can or might end up doing. So we should be running about 400 pips in profit on that one. And I'm just going to hold that. Happy to hold that, happy to do that. So again, there's going to be some big changes on the pound. We're going to bring the pound into the London session in terms of the New York Stock Exchange. We're going to be keeping a heavier focus on the euro, on the pound. But again, this afternoon session, we do have some of that fundamental data coming out at exactly 3:15. And that is what we're going to be looking at in terms of the industrial production. And we're going to specifically look month on month. That has a big opportunity to move markets, or at least set a tone in what direction we are going to go. And I will again announce that Netflix Trade-a-thon. So that is what we're going to do. Colin saying he's holding US30, well done. Only Limpopian saying obviously he's in US30. To me saying signal question mark. I will say human question mark. What are you doing here? Question mark. How do you address someone just a word like signal question mark? Yeah, some people, I don't know. Anyway, but guys, listen, have yourselves an amazing morning. All of our Globex 360 live account holders, will see you on the Dollars for Lunch session. We're going to have an amazing session together. Go and have a look at last week's recap. It is a very, very powerful video. If you're part and parcel of that, then definitely that's where you want to be. Just addressing Tumi's question or statement there, where he just pops a thing that says with a question mark. Guys, if I'm trading live, remember, this is educational purposes. I'm not here to provide signals. I'm not here to provide financial advice. This is for educational entertainment purposes. So when I'm trading, you can see me taking a buy and you ask signal question mark. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like some people, you really are, yeah, I'll pray for you. I'll pray for you. So everybody, please send some praise to that man's direction. Anyway, guys, listen, have an amazing day. Dollars for Lunch is going to be powerful. You want to be a part of that. Until I see you then, have an amazing morning, and I'll see you guys a little bit later. Until then, bye.